What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Doing great. Yeah,
Hello.
turn the
Here we
mic
go.
on.
No, it's already on. It's just
there
I
we
have
go.
to speak in it a certain way. It's trial by error, coach. First, just a quick hit on Damian Lee with the knee. Is it a tear? Is it a sprain? What's his status as far as his knee?
Yeah, well, we just know that he's going to be out for a while. I don't want to get into the specifics. I think we had a release a couple of days ago, and that's all we're going to say about it.
Curious in terms of Devin, in terms of him handling the ball more, and you've talked about multiple ball handlers, but at some point, at the end of a game, it usually goes to one guy to make decisions, and it looks like it'll be Devin. How do you feel like he will play or thrive or handle that role, considering who he's playing with?
Exceptionally well. We got great pieces around him. He's been a guy that throughout his career has a ton of experience off the ball as well as with the basketball. And, I think that part's going to be seamless.
Lastly, with Nurkic, obviously you've been huge with centers who have been good as far as defensively, whether it's Hibbert, whether it's Davis, whether it's Howard. Where do you see Nurkic in that role being a defensive anchor for what you're trying to pull off defensively?
Yeah, well, that's what you just said the words, a defensive anchor, and his ability to pass the basketball offensively with the perimeter firepower that we have really makes him a great fit for our system. He's one of the best defensive rebounders in the game. So as we compete to guard, we're going to force a lot of misses, and we got a board. We want to get out and be a running team. We need somebody that can dominate the defensive boards, and he's elite at that.
Hey, Frank. Kellen Olson, there's no sports. Good to
Kellen.
see you. With this trade, it's not often that a team makes a trade in late September that changes the way that you're going to play. What are some of the differences you see in Yusuf's game compared to the way that you might have seen the team play with DeAndre?
Yeah, well, the two things that stick out, what I just mentioned, is that he's a dominant defensive rebounder and that he's an exceptional passing big. So to be able to throw the ball to him and have our guys in movement, it just gives us a different dynamic than them just coming down playing pick and roll or post or ISO every time down. So whether we're throwing to him in the post and splitting and cutting or throwing him to him at the top of the key, we really want to get those guys in space, get bodies off of our elite scorers on the perimeter, and Yusuf does that for us.
Hey, Frank, good to see you. Joe Bourget.
Good to see you, Joe.
I'm just curious because there are so many new faces on this team, and you're obviously coming into a new situation here as well. As a coach, does it excite you, all the potential positional battles for minutes that you're going to see in training camp? Or is that the kind of stuff that keeps you up at night, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. Obviously, when you have the makeup of our team being fairly new and coaching staff being fairly new, there is what I call a continuity disadvantage against certain opponents, like the ones that knocked us out last year. Denver has been together a few years, and obviously that continuity helped them win the championship last year. But there also can be a huge spark from a new group coming together like we have, and that's what my focus is on. That we're going to take advantage of that first year energy, the refresh energy that we're going to have with our group, and hopefully that overcomes any type of continuity disadvantage.
Hi, Frank. Doug Haller with The Athletic over here. How are you?
Hi, Doug.
In the teams that you've coached that have had great chemistry, has there been a common denominator that's kind of brought all that together?
I think the number one thing is willingness and selflessness, and the desire to reach a common goal. That's what is, quite frankly, necessary for a team to win a championship. Teams don't win championships that aren't connected, and I think those are the most common things that that we'll preach with our guys, and quite frankly, for me and my experience as a head coach, chemistry has always been something that you have to strive for. That it's an achievement. It's not these guys get along or these pieces quote unquote fit on paper. But how are you working towards that off the court? Connecting to players through team bonding events and dinners and whatnot, and on the court, working through things. But the style of play. People talk about culture all the time, and what's what's the environment like when you come to work, but there's an on-the-court culture that has to be established to have great chemistry as well. You know, we're not going to be a team that takes offensive shots. We're not going to be a team that takes possessions off on the defensive end and offends teammates. So, you know, the on-the-court culture is something that has to be achieved.
Damian Adams here with Burn City Sports. Is there anything that you learned from your time with the Lakers that you're able to bring forward to help Phoenix win going forward?
Yeah, hi, Damian. And I think every coaching spot that you have, you learn different lessons. You know, I cut my teeth at Indiana as a head coach. I learned to evolve my system in Orlando. I learned to work with elite stars in LA and see them transition into the modern NBA. So I think those are probably the biggest lessons with the Lakers is working with elite stars that were in their prime that I didn't necessarily have in Indiana, Orlando. But those lessons and like I said, transitioning the system to evolve with the way the modern NBA plays basketball, because the game is very different than it was 5-10 years ago.
Coach, this is Dane Scott from Arizona Republic. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Yeah. So it's a totally different team from the 2021 Finals team. New coach. How important is this preseason for you in proving that chemistry that you're talking about?
Well, it's a starting point. I don't want to overemphasize the importance of it. I think the key for us is to understand that we're in the midst of a marathon, or at the beginning of a marathon, and the starting point is important. Some situations you hit the ground running, and the integration is seamless. Sometimes it takes a little more time for a team to gel, and we don't know what that's going to look like for our group. But the preseason is the beginning, of our long journey. So hopefully we're able to gel very quickly, install our system very quickly, and be able to hit the ground running on opening night.
Coach Greg Moore, over this way. Bam.
There you go, way over there. You sound like you're over here.
It's a trick. Good to finally be around you. Columnist, Arizona Republic. My question is about your time in Indiana, your time in Orlando, your time in LA. So there's the on-the-court stuff, but then there's all the extra, right? All the attention that's paid, the national media, the fact that you're on all the talk shows. What are you going to be able to relay to your team about the differences between those experiences, the difference of the experience in Indiana versus the difference in experience in Los Angeles, with the level of attention being paid to you from everybody in the basketball world?
Well, I think the number one lesson is that we have to block out all noise, positive noise and negative noise. And we really have to focus on the task at hand and, the people that are in our building, in our group. We're a smaller market, but we are a star-laden team. So we will get a great deal of national attention. And, we can't let anything that's said change the way we're approaching our business. We know what the job looks like and what we have to get done, and we can't allow outside noise to distract us from that.
Coach Richard Sines, Fox 10. Good to see you. You've said words like scrappy, not taking possessions off on the defensive end, competing to defend. It's obvious defense is important to you. When you add a guy like Grayson Allen, how does that help in that department? Because he seems like a guy that you're not a big fan of if he's on the other team, but boy, you love him when he's on your team.
For sure. And, Grayson, by nature, is a scrappy player. He plays extremely hard, he plays extremely physical, and he's an irritant. And like you said, you love guys like that on your team, and you hate playing against them. But a lot of irritants type of players in the NBA aren't as skilled as Grayson Allen is. That's what I love about what he brings to the table. He brings that scrappy mindset, but he's an elite three-point shooter. He's an elite playmaker. He can attack the basket. He's got a great IQ for making the extra pass. So you have a rare combination of a really scrappy player that's highly skilled.
Coach, Bob Hune, Associated Press.
Hi, Bob.
A question about spring training once you start workouts and the process. How quickly will you know how a player is going to fit into your system, what he's going to be capable of, and also how do you coach him up, whether you are hard on the player or really not as hard as a specific player?
Well, I think how you coach them is something that, is you learn as you go. Every player responds to different levels of coaching. How quickly I'll know whether they fit into our system, I would say there's a great starting point for every player on our team. And that's why they're here. If we didn't feel like they fit into our system, we wouldn't ask James and Matt and Josh to acquire them. So I think the starting point of how well they're going to fit is really high for all of our players. And, preseason, regular season, those lessons that we learn when they get their opportunities to actually perform in our system will give us those answers.
Hey, Frank, Mark McClune, Arizona's family.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, good to see you. With training camp, and you have your three guys that will likely, be on the floor for you, but the other two spots and the rest of the playing time up for grabs. How fierce do you think the competition will be for that playing time? How fierce would you like it to be?
Fierce but healthy. We're all on the same team. There will be an element of winning the job, but there will also be an element of this stretch. I'd like to see this combination play for the next 5 games, or for the next 10 games. Or I'd like to see a smaller lineup or a bigger lineup. I want to see how these two players play with one another. So I don't want the competition to distract my purpose in exploring the roster and all the combinations that we can look at throughout the course of a season.
Hey, Frank, over here. Trevor Booth with Clutch Points. Nice
Hi,
to meet
Trevor.
you. Now that the roster is set, what do you feel like is the defensive potential of this group, and how well do you think it can do in your scheme?
I think that we have the potential to be great on the defensive end. We certainly have to put in the work. I do think we're more offensively talented than defensively talented, but we have guys that really compete, and that are winners. And we're going to be a group that has a great scheme, a very intelligent defensive scheme that will be very, our guys will be very well prepared from game to game. So I think the ceiling is very high of what we can be on the defensive side of the ball. But our guys got to put in the work.
Hey, Frank, all the way back here behind the camera. Eliav Gabay, Sports 360 AZ, good to see you again. So you've had some great leaders on your teams, and now your 3 stars here have to take that on. What's the conversation been like with them as far as leading on the court and in the locker room?
Yeah, well, everybody leads in different ways, and I think you have to stay true to who you are. I think guys that lead by example should lead by example. I think guys that lead with their voice should lead with their voice. And, we have both of those types of leaders on our team. I also preach leadership from every chair in the room. So even a guy that may be out of the rotation, as a green light and encouragement, to speak up, in ways that will challenge his teammates, challenge our coaching staff, or to put things in the right direction. So we'll encourage that from everyone.
Frank, hi. This is Dave King with SB Nation, Brightside.
Hi, Dave.
Hi. You were talking about you've got a lot of opportunity to have a really good defense this year, but that's not their highest forte. Their best is offense. That does put, the way the roster is constructed, that does put a lot of pressure on Kevin Durant to do a lot on the back end to help on the help defense with Yusuf, Nurkic, and all that. I know you had LeBron James in recent years on the Lakers, and that was when load management was kind of a big deal in the NBA. Are you still, are you going to try to manage the physical impact on your older players this year during the regular season, do you think?
We'll be smart, in everything we do with what we're asking them to do. Both from a workload standpoint with practice, off days, games throughout the course of the year. You will make those decisions game by game, but also with how we're using them and what we're asking them to do. You know, I'm not going to ask Kevin Durant to play center for 42 minutes a game, you know, and bang with bigs. You know, we'll be intelligent with how we use them on the floor, and with you know, the proper management of their bodies, not just their older players, but all of our players throughout the course of the season. Okay, thanks, guys.